I'm excited about the pick, the Paul Ryan pick, and that's the last thing I want to talk about because it's gonna bring into focus our spending issues. But one thing that's not really being talked about right now is monetary policy that is important to me as well. We talk about generational theft. Has anybody ever heard that phrase, that term? So, and Tom Coburn talks about generational theft too in the book, The Debt Bomb. And most people, when they talk about generational theft, they say, well, we're taking from our kids, we're taking from our grandkids. We're borrowing money, and we're kicking the can down the road, and they're going to have to pay it back. Well, I look at it another way too. We're actually robbing from our parents, and we're robbing from grandparents, and with our monetary policy. So when we borrow money, that's incumbent upon our children to pay that back. All right? But when we print money, what happens? We devalue the dollar. And then when we play with interest rates, when we hold them artificially low for extended periods of time in an effort to get the economy to come back, what are we doing? We're robbing the elderly who have saved all their lives. Walter Williams pointed out that the median net worth of somebody under the age of 35 is $10,000. And that's understandable. I mean, you've bought stuff, you've maybe borrowed to pay for it, and you've got a job and you're productive. The median net worth for somebody over the age of 65 is $232,000. So when we devalue the dollar, who are we robbing? We're robbing people over the age of 65. And the Social Security benefits, those are in terms of dollars. They're not in terms of gold or anything else. So those are going down as well. So you've got a government now that is robbing from both generations. And if we're in charge of this government, we need to stop it. We need to quit robbing the elderly, and we need to quit robbing the young. But we also, because they go vote, we need for seniors to understand that the monetary policy that's kicking in because of our spending habits is going to affect them, and it is affecting them. I mean, they know it in the pocketbook, but this is why it's going to affect them. So with that said, let me talk about the Paul Ryan, and this is the last thing I want to talk about before I open up for questions, but I'm really, really, really excited about the nomination of Paul Ryan for Vice President. This is very exciting for 3 reasons in my mind. First of all, it shows that Romney has leadership skills. He's not going to hide from the issue. Somebody told me a few days ago, he said, I think he's going to pick Paul Ryan. I said, I don't think he will, because the Democrats want to demagogue Medicare, and they've been attacking Paul Ryan ever since his budget plan came out. So when Mitt Romney picked Paul Ryan, that shows me he has leadership. He's willing to take the toughest issue facing us today and apply the most talented person that's risen to the top in Congress to that problem and bring it out and discuss it before November 6th. We're actually going to be discussing entitlement reform and the debt and the spending. So, and we've got a really smart guy to do it with. Can you imagine this debate that's going to happen between Paul Ryan and Joe Biden? I expect him to call a special session of the Senate and open Yucca Mountain to hide Joe Biden. They don't want him out there. I mean, any comparison of those two by any metric is going to show that we've got the better vice presidential candidate. So that's one reason that I'm excited. The second reason that I'm excited is we're going to have honest, adult conversations about these issues. And last night at the fair in Boone County, a guy came up to me. He was, and from his age, I could tell he was on Medicare. But he seemed like he was going to support me. So he asked about Medicare. He said, well, what are we going to do about Medicare? And I said, well, are you ready for an adult conversation? And he said, well, I think I am. I said, well, the average couple at the age of 65 when they sign up for Medicare has paid in $120,000 to Medicare. And they can expect to receive $350,000 of benefits. Now, if what they get's worth $350,000, that's debatable. How, through the payment process and all that, which needs to change. But that's not sustainable. Pay in $120,000 and get out $350,000. How can you sustain that? Our population is not growing fast enough to make those numbers work. Well, he looked at me. He was ready to have an adult conversation. And he said, 49 months. I said, 49 months? What's 49 months? He said, I sat down and calculated how much I paid into Medicare over my lifetime. And in 49 months, I would have drawn it all back out, and I'll be on welfare. They'll call it Medicare. He said, but I'm on welfare after 49 months. Because that's when I start receiving benefits in excess of what I've paid in. And so, he's right. We're taking that money from someone else. That's not money that he's paid in that he's going to get back out after 49 months. Now, if his numbers are correct or not, I don't know. But he was a business guy, and he seemed to know what he was talking about. So I think people are ready to have an adult conversation. They're going to be excited, not just the conservative base. I'm excited as a conservative that we're having Paul Ryan, who seems to be serious about shrinking the size of government. But I think independents are going to get excited about Paul Ryan, because instead of demagoguery, instead of picking on somebody for they haven't shown their tax returns, they haven't shown their birth certificate, or whatever piece of paper it is they haven't shown us, they're going to talk about solutions. And that's what you hear from the independents. They say, I don't want negative campaigning. I want somebody to get up and tell me, right or wrong, good or bad, what their plan is for fixing it. And that's what's exciting to me about Paul Ryan. That's the second thing that's exciting to me. Now, and the third thing that excites me about his choice as Paul Ryan is I've heard there's an opening on the Budget Committee in Congress. All right, I'll take questions now if you have any. Yes, sir.
You've talked a lot about reforming like Social Security and Medicare and attacking domestic spending, but I mean, we spend more money on military than the rest of the world combined, and we're currently, I think we're using a direction with Iran that's going to be pushing us into another war. Isn't there a way we can start attacking foreign spending? I mean, domestically, I mean, we get some benefit from actually having money spent domestically, but having it spent overseas on war, I don't see anything more destructive than that. I mean, is there a way we can start using something besides war and nation building and policing the entire world as our solving foreign problems?
Well, to your point, the amount of cuts that you're talking about making to the military as a part of this automatic sequestration is $50 billion. And the military budget, it's debatable what it is, whether you're including discretionary and non-discretionary in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's somewhere, depending on which number you pull out, between $700 billion and $1 trillion a year. So you're talking about taking $50 billion. You could take $25 billion of the foreign aid that we send overseas, and a lot of that goes to military for other countries, and put it toward our military. The other thing that's interesting about the demagoguery that's going to happen going forward is the Republicans become temporary Keynesians sometimes when it comes to military spending. In that they say, this is how we create jobs. We need to spend money on the military, and this will create jobs. But to your point, when you buy an aircraft carrier and it goes into the ocean, it's not like you're building a car factory. This is going out there, and it's something we're going to put fuel in, and it's not. Now, there's a very great reason to have an aircraft carrier. Very good reason, national security. That's the reason we're spending money for this. And an ancillary benefit is that we do get jobs out of that process, but it's not more efficient than private sector use of that money. We're doing this because there is no private sector solution to military defense. We have to have it. But I don't think the Republicans should engage as much in saying that this is job creation, because then you could say that's the same argument for funding Solyndra or for building bridges to nowhere, is that we're spending money and we're going to create jobs. It's different in the sense that the military is a useful expenditure of money, but it shouldn't be justified from a job standpoint. But to your point, I would be in favor of spending the money on military bases at home instead of military bases overseas, because then when those soldiers shop or buy things, they're not buying them in a foreign country, which is there is waste in the military. It could be eliminated. Tom Coburn points out one aspect in his book. The commissaries are supported, they're subsidized, to the tune of $1.2 billion a year. It's a $6 billion. So, you know, there are places where you can save money. And I am for national defense. This is the one thing in our Constitution that we do need to be doing. With so many things in our that aren't in our Constitution that we're doing, we do need to have national defense. But we shouldn't use it as a job aspect, you know, to claim that we're creating jobs. And that's the purpose. The purpose is to defend our country. Other questions? Yes.
Where do you stand on auditing the Fed?
I think we should audit the Fed, and you know, that's if we had other vice presidential picks, we might have had more discussion on monetary policy. There's some folks that want to end the Fed. I think audit the Fed will work if we know where that money's going. It's, you know, the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, it's not the federal government. There are no reserves, and it's not a bank. So we need to look more into where that money is going. They can accomplish things outside of Congress. The Federal Reserve can. We at least need to know what they're doing. And that bill passed the House, and is Reed going to let it come before the Senate, or do we know?
He seemed, I think he was.